Welcome to part 5 of how to play the clarinet. This video we're going to talk about some different parts of reading music, and this can be found in your book on page 5. So follow along there, and then I'll also use the camera and we'll look at some of those parts. On page 5 in your book, the first section at the top there talks about the staff right here, and it says 5 lines and 4 spaces for writing music. And that's just what it is. There's lines, and in between the lines there are spaces. And we use that to write the music on. This red box here is talking about the treble clef. It's also called the G clef. It's called the G clef because this little loop here, right here, is circling around the second line of the staff. And that's telling us that whenever there's a note on that second line, that it's going to be a G every single time. We'll talk about the notes in just one second. The yellow box talks about this section here, which is time signature. It tells us how many beats in a measure, which is the top number. So this means 4 beats in a measure. And what kind of note gets the beat. That's the bottom number. So 4/4 or 4/4 means that a fourth or a quarter note gets the beat in 4/4 time. The next one is a blue box, and it says it's a bar line. It divides the staff into measures. So we have bar lines, which divides the staff into these little sections, right? These little kind of boxes. They're called measures. It's the distance between 2 bar lines. Okay, and that's that purple box there. This green box is talking about this end here, talking about the double bar. The double bar is the end of a section of music, and this particular double bar has a thicker second bar than the first one. And there also are double bars where they're both the same thickness. This thick one typically means it's the very end. On the bottom part of page 5, we talk about the musical alphabet. And it just says there, the musical alphabet uses only the letters A through G. These are used to name the notes on the staff in line, space, order. So in this case, this one here is E, then you have F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. So it goes A through G and repeats. It just happens that the bottom one is E, but it goes lower. You know, it starts clear down here with an A. This first one is an A, and it goes A through G, which is to here, and then it repeats back to A through G. And then it repeats. This one is also an A. So that's kind of how it goes. And if you remember that this here is the G clef, it's the treble clef, but also known as the G clef, then you'll know that this second line is a G. And then you just remember your alphabet A through G, and you know all the names of the notes. And it's really that simple. Okay, so as long as you really have to remember one note, the G. Or if you prefer to remember the A and know that's A through G that way and backwards, G back to A the other way, then that helps too. This is another way some people teach about music, is remembering that each of the spaces spell F-A-C-E. Those are the notes in the space. So face in the space. Or you might remember E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy does fine. Or Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. Or every good boy deserves fudge. There's lots of them. You might know one yourself that you like. But either way you remember it, it's important that you remember the names of the notes so that we can speak musically in band. So that maybe instead of saying, hey, Mr. Garner, I don't know this note, and I say, which note? And you say, oh, this one. And you want to bring it up to me, or you want me to come to you. That just takes too much time, and we need to speak musically to one another. So you might say, Mr. Garner, in the 4th measure, I don't know how to play this G. Oh, well, now I can know exactly what you're talking about, and I can help you with it. So we speak musically with one another in band. The bottom section here is talking about ledger lines. Ledger lines are used to extend the staff. So you see this note here, this C, has a ledger line. It has an extra line, and this B has a line, and this A has 2 lines, right? So this B is below the line, this C is on the line, okay, and the D is below the staff. So those are called ledger lines. They just extend the staff because technically there are 7 lines using the 5 lines of the staff and the 2 ledger lines. But that'd be a lot of lines to use if we use that everywhere. So we just use ledger lines where they're needed. So make sure you go over that page 5 multiple times. Try and remember those things. You might make yourself some flashcards or have your parents quiz you or a sibling. It's really important you learn those parts, okay, and understand the parts of the music as we move forward so that you understand what we're talking about when we're learning in band. Our next video, we're going to talk about parts of the Accent Achievement book, and we'll get into really soon into playing actual notes on your instrument. So we'll see you on that one.